Japan. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Tokyo, anime, Mount Fuji, sushi, geisha, Kyoto, cats or maid cafes, history, culture, technology, sakura, spring, autumn, cosplay, Osaka, Himeji or Hiroshima, Honshu, Shikoku, Hokkaido. Everyone has their own list, and on the list of places to visit before you die, Japan ranks among the best. There are just so many amazing, inspiring, hidden, unique, and outrageous experiences that you can find in Japan. So many that it can be hard to know where to begin, but don't let this prevent you from the trip of a lifetime. I have lived, traveled and explored this beautiful, diverse country for over 5 years, and now I want to share my knowledge and experience with you too. This is how I would spend 2 weeks in Japan. Here is a sneak peek of what might prove to be the best trip you'll ever take. Arriving in Tokyo to immerse yourself in the bustling heart of the country and whet your appetite for the journey ahead. Then contrasting this modern megacity, we'll head into the countryside of Yamanashi to glimpse the majestic Mount Fuji, a must for any memory of Japan. Then staying in Kyoto, Japan's cultural soul, with its traditional streets and spiritual temples and shrines. We then head to ancient Nara, Japan's first capital but now better known for its polite bowing deer and incredible Burning Mountain event. Before diving into Osaka to taste the culinary excellence that its streets have to offer, then explore the hidden and mysterious Setouchi, Japan's inland sea, with its ruined fortresses, breathtaking bridges and adorable Rabbit Island. Then paying our respects in Hiroshima, the location of the first atomic bomb, and seeing how beautiful the city has become since that day. Before returning at last to Tokyo, visiting all the essentials and crossing off items from your personal list. It goes without saying that we all have our own favorites when it comes to travel, so I have included a variety of things to do with several options that you can select for yourself if any one item isn't your cup of green tea. Feel free to mix days or activities around. This will be a round trip using the Japan Rail Pass, so you can freely travel quickly, both within and between cities using Japan's excellent train network. Here are a couple things to know before we begin. The Japan Rail Pass can be bought for 7, 14 or 21 consecutive days and might seem expensive at first glance, but will save you hundreds of dollars over the course of your trip. In some cases, it is possible to purchase it at major airports, but only at an increased cost. The Rail Pass will cover basically all transport on this trip over the JR lines, but in some cases, such as the Tokyo subway, an additional fare will be required. For these, it's easy to pick up an IC card to quickly board trains. They can be purchased at every station and can be refunded on your final day for their remaining balance. There are a lot of apps for train times and navigation in Japan, but in recent years, they have just not been as effective as Google Maps, which is now all that I use for finding trains and getting around. Pocket Wi-Fi can be purchased at airports and camera stores, but it is often also free in major cities and at cafes. And you'll not have to worry too much about the language barrier. Japan is very well suited for foreign travelers. And even without a single word of Japanese, you can enjoy this trip. That said, it's always nice to repay the hospitality of your hosts by learning a few phrases. Lastly, don't tip. There is no tipping culture in Japan, and doing so will lead to humorous scenes for onlookers, as the shopkeepers will chase you down on the streets even through the rain, in an effort to return even a single yen you left behind. Let's begin. Arriving in Tokyo, you'll be greeted with one of the largest and busiest megacities in the world. But don't let that overwhelm you. Find your hotel, drop off your bags, and get out there and try some authentic Japanese food to fuel up. Then just go out and explore the city. There is something for everyone in Tokyo. Start your trip off with a bang and go straight to that Tokyo spot that you have been looking forward to the most. Whether it's the bustling Shibuya Scramble, the fashionable streets of Harajuku, the madness of Japan's electric town Akihabara, the tranquility of the Imperial Gardens. You could even see all of these on the first day, as they are all easily accessible from the Yamanote or Tokyo Loop line. My recommendation though is to pick just one or two that you've heard of, and then just walk around, exploring the streets for yourself, finding all those little nooks and crannies that you just won't find on a map that makes Japan so special. The first 2 days are also a great time to acclimatize yourself to the country. Don't worry if there is something that you feel you missed, because you'll have another chance when we return to Tokyo at the end. Just make a note of it so that you'll remember. If cities just aren't your thing, then the beauty of the Japan Rail Pass is that you can ditch Tokyo entirely, perhaps heading up to Matsushima for the day, the famed Pine Islands in Miyagi, which are the first of the 3 great sites of Japan, or Nihon Sankei, and returning that same day. For those of you staying in Tokyo, here are a few more things you can do. Visiting the iconic Sosenji Temple in Asakusa, one of Tokyo's most popular destinations. The temple is completely free to visit, and you can also take a walk on the Sumida River with views of the Tokyo Skytree. You could take in the nightlife at Kabukicho Street, enjoy a drink in a small bar in Golden Gai, or just relax at Yokohama Bayside Park. Only 18 minutes away by train, people often assume that this is part of Tokyo, but it's actually a city all on its own, and in fact Japan's second largest, and the capital of Kanagawa. I find Yokohama to be a lot more relaxed and spacious compared to its bustling and oftentimes cramped Tokyo counterpart. Depending on the season, it is possible to see Mount Fuji from Tokyo when the conditions are right, but it's time to get up close, contrasting the urban landscape for the natural, spending the day amongst the beauty of Japan's most iconic mountain along the Fuji 5 Lakes at Kawaguchiko, which can be accessed either by highway bus or by taking the train to Otsuki and then transferring to the Fuji-Q line. Unfortunately, this line isn't covered on the rail pass, but it only costs 1,200 yen or just under $10. The Fuji 5 Lakes are most beautiful in spring and autumn when the sakura or momiji maple leaves are out respectively. The lake can be explored by bus or rental car cheaply, and you can experience the mystery of Fuji's lava caves or the shrouded Aokigahara forest. Travelers between early June and September also have the option of climbing Mount Fuji, but you'll have to modify this itinerary to do so. Reaching the summit can take between 6 and 10 hours depending on your level of fitness, and about the same coming down. It is possible to climb Mount Fuji overnight to catch the sunrise, then descending the same day, which is called bullet climbing, or you can even rent a small cabin close to the summit for a slower and much more relaxing ascent. These cabins can be expensive, however, and fill quickly, so book ahead. Even though Fuji might exhaust you for the next few days, the opportunity to see the sunrise from Japan's tallest peak is something that's definitely worth considering. For those content to see Fuji from the city or on the train to Kyoto, this day could be substituted with a trip to the aforementioned Matsushima or, depending on the season, into the Nagano Mountains to witness Japan's hot spring monkeys in Jigokudani, called Hell Valley due to its geothermal landscape. It snows from November to February, which is undoubtedly the best time to visit this spot. This is a remarkable place to enjoy the winter landscape while taking a hot onsen bath. Kyoto, cultural and spiritual heart of Japan. For many, this will be the most memorable part of any trip, and it's easy to see why with its beautiful historic streets, structures, and gardens. You'll immediately notice the difference between Kyoto and Tokyo, and may be tempted to spend many more days in this ancient capital of Japan. But here's my recommendation. Start every day early in Kyoto. It's much more beautiful in the morning before it becomes crowded. A walk through Fushimi and Aritaisha with its thousands of vermilion torii gates is a must for every visitor in Kyoto. It is completely free and gets busier as the day goes on, but as you climb the mountain, people will begin to thin out, and you'll be able to find a section just for yourself. A whole lap through the shrine can take an hour or two, and I always find something new each time I visit. Next, head to Kiyomizu-dera, the water temple. This is my favorite temple in all of Japan, and is particularly beautiful in autumn. The street leading to the temple, Kiyomizu-zaka, is also a great place to look for small souvenirs and Japanese sweets. Try free samples offered by its stalls, or sit down for a cup of tea. From here, I recommend walking downhill towards Yasaka Jinja. It only takes about 12 minutes on foot, but you can absolutely take your time getting lost in the historic streets admiring the architecture. Yasaka, in summer, is the center of Gion Matsuri, Kyoto's largest festival. And speaking of Gion, it's just across the road from here. And if you're lucky, you may even catch a glimpse of a real working geisha, though they are much more reclusive these days. If you absolutely can't leave Japan without seeing a geisha or their Maiko apprentices, then you can watch them perform at the Yasaka Hall. This part of Kyoto is best explored by foot, and from here I recommend continuing your walk towards the Kamo River. You'll find Pontocho Alley, perhaps the most iconic back street in Japan. Just walking along this alley in itself is a joy, but it is also a great spot for having a drink or for fine dining, although it can be a little bit expensive, so keep that in mind. At the end of Pontocho, you'll find Sanjo Dori, which is another great place to find a restaurant, or just relax on the river itself and enjoy a drink. There are no open bottle laws in Japan, so you can drink freely along the banks, and many people gather here to do so. Just remember that it can be hard to find a trash can in Japan, and you might have to carry your cans and bottles around for a while. If you're in Kyoto during spring, then I absolutely recommend visiting Kiyage, an old incline railway which was used to move goods from Lake Biwako to Kyoto, that is now lined with hundreds of sakura trees. Nearby Nanzenji and the Suirokaku Aqueduct can also be seen here, but they are a little bit better in autumn colors. The next day, take a 20-minute train to Arashiyama, the Storm Mountain, and take a stroll through the famous bamboo grove. Like Fushimi, this is best explored early in the morning or on a weekday before it becomes too crowded to get that perfect travel shot. Afterwards, you can take a relaxed walk towards the Togetsukyo Bridge, trying some of the street food on offer, and take a look at the Kimono Forest, an art installation at Arashiyama Station which mimics the bamboo forest but by using the patterns of real kimonos. Speaking of kimonos, if you wish to rent a kimono, there are numerous places to do so here, scattered throughout the area for around 2,000 yen an hour, which is a much more cost-effective alternative to buying one as a souvenir. Along the banks of the Togetsukyo Bridge is also a great place to take a break and enjoy some ice cream or a traditional snack. Just across the bridge, you can also experience feeding macaques at the Iwatayama Monkey Park. They are quite friendly and come down from the mountains during the day, but be sure to follow the rules, as they are still wild animals. Iwatayama offers great views of Kyoto and the Katsura River, which you can walk along or even rent a rowboat. But to fully experience the mountains, I recommend taking the Taroko Romantic Railway, which winds its way through the canyon along the vibrant, beautiful Green River to Kamaoka. Arashiyama is beautiful all year round, but I enjoy it best in autumn and winter. Rounding out your day from here, you can visit the nearby Kinkakuji, the Golden Pavilion, which incorporates 3 distinct styles of architecture: Shinden, Samurai, and Zen over 3 floors. The exterior, of course, is covered in gold leaf, and it is spectacular in the sun or covered in snow. There are over 1,600 temples and shrines in Kyoto between the large sites and the small ones scattered throughout the city, so you can take your time to explore on your last day. Some I would recommend are Higashi Honganji, Ijo Castle, the Kyoto Imperial Castle, and Heian Jingu Shrine. If you'd prefer a side trip, then you can explore Shiga Prefecture, just 30 minutes away by train and home of Japan's largest lake, exploring the rural countryside and history of Hikone Castle or the old merchant moats of Omihachiman. Going a bit further, you can even explore Gifu, a less traveled but incredibly diverse prefecture, where you can see ancient cormorant fishing, fireflies in summer, a pond that resembles a Monet painting, or even see fish swimming through the streets of Gujo Hachiman, Japan's water city. Northern Kyoto is another great option, but it is surprisingly out of the way and will take almost 2.5 hours to reach. Should you choose to though, you'll be rewarded with the second of the 3 great views of Japan, Amanohashi Date, the bridge to heaven. There is a quirky little local tradition to stand on the mountain, bend over, and view the pine sandbar upside down through your legs, which gives the appearance of it leading up into the sky, which is where its name comes from. And from here, just by going a bit further north, you can find the fisherman village of Ineicho, referred to as the Venice of Japan due to its old family boathouses. It is even possible to rent one of these and stay overnight, an experience that might make the detour all the worthwhile. Nara, Japan's first ancient capital, dating back to the year 710. It only takes 45 minutes to reach Nara, so this day could be an additional stay in Kyoto, if you could set aside 4 or 5 hours to visit. But I much prefer to stay in this city famous for its friendly deer overnight, as that is the only way to experience the park early in the morning, when the light is at its best and the mist is still in the air. From Nara Station, you can walk all throughout the city and up to the park. Feeding the deer is a popular activity, and you can buy special deer senbei or crackers for about 200 yen. Like people, most of the deer are polite and will thank you for their food with a bow, but some are impatient and will do anything to taste the delicious senbei. While in Nara, you will almost definitely see someone running away from the hungry deer or find yourself being chased as well, but it's still all in good fun. Todaiji Temple, the largest wooden structure in Japan, is found here, which houses the 15-meter tall giant bronze Daibutsu statue. Visitors to Nara in spring can also be treated to the best sakura spot in all of Japan, Yoshino. This mountain has over 30,000 sakura trees which bloom at different stages, and it is unlike anywhere else in the country. Yoshino is a little bit out of the way, however, and you'll need to take the Kintetsu, which is not covered by the JR Pass, although the beauty of the sightseeing trains, such as the Blue Symphony, more than make up for this. The luxury seats can be reserved for as little as 700 yen, or around $6. The mountain town is beautiful, but the sakura are the main draw, so I would only include this side trip if you happen to be in Nara in April. An all-year-round alternative side trip from Yoshino, either when traveling from Kyoto to Nara or returning, is Uji. This small town is famous for its matcha green tea and Byodo-in Temple. The Phoenix Hall of this temple is the very same that can be found on the back of the 10-yen coin. And the river, which runs through the middle of the city, makes for a great afternoon walk. You can also view cormorant fishing here as well between July and September. A secret tip for those who happen to be in Nara on the 4th Saturday of January, one of Japan's most incredible festivals is held here on this day, the Wakakusa Yamiyaki, or literally, Grilled Mountain Festival, where you can witness an entire mountain being set ablaze shortly after the sun has set. The scale of this event can be witnessed from all over the town, but the best spots are definitely the base of the mountain, though you do need to get there quite early to find a space. It's now time to get back somewhere a bit more urban, so we'll be spending the next 2 days in Osaka, Japan's 3rd largest city, but you'll immediately notice the difference between it and Tokyo. Osaka is louder, grittier, feels more lived in. People like to have fun and love to eat when they come to Osaka. This is a great time in your trip to really let loose, explore the back streets, and maybe do a bit of shopping, but don't fill up your bags just yet, as there will be another chance to at the end of this trip. Dotonbori in the Namba Minami area is the heart of Osaka, and where you'll find the iconic Glycoman sign at the Ibisu Bridge. This is where everyone meets up for a night in the town in Osaka, somewhat ironically, as you'll often have to wade through a sea of other people also looking for their friends, but it's a local tradition. Along the river and the Shinsaibashi shopping streets have endless places to grab a bite to eat, and I recommend the Osaka specialty okonomiyaki and takoyaki. Another great place to enjoy some street food is just 20 minutes away in Kobe. Nankinmachi Chinatown is lined with vendors who offer some of the most delicious dumplings, duck, and steamed pork buns I've ever tasted. And you can easily fill yourself up here for the day for less than 1,000 or 2,000 yen. But just be careful, every time I've tried to experience Kobe beef, I find myself back in Nankinmachi because it's just that good. Kobe also holds a special event over the Christmas period called the Luminary, one of the most spectacular and largest lighting displays in the world. For some more things to do in Osaka, I recommend the Kaiyukan Aquarium, the 2nd largest in Japan, where you can see giant deepwater Japanese sea crabs and even whale sharks. Universal Studios, with its recently opened Super Nintendo Land, Shinsekai, a retro street famous for its neon lights and fried kushikatsu sticks, and Osaka Castle Park. The park is a great place to relax in the city, and its ancient castle moat is one of, if not the largest and most impressive in Japan. The castle is a beautiful reconstruction and its exterior is gorgeous, but I would skip going inside unless you really want to see the view from the top, as its interior is really no different from any modern building. A much better alternative is Himeji Castle, which is 45 minutes away from Osaka. Himeji can be visited while you're still in Osaka, or as you travel down to or back from Hiroshima. Himeji Castle is without a doubt Japan's most prestigious and extravagant castle. With its massive size and intricate detail, it only takes a few hours to view the castle, so I wouldn't really devote a whole day here, but as a side trip, it's definitely worth it. For day 10, I'm going to show you a secret little spot that you've likely never heard of as we head south to Wakayama. Taking a short train to the Kata port and then a ferry to Tomogoshima, a series of 4 tiny islands in the Osaka Bay between the mainland and Awaji. Here you'll find the abandoned ruins of a fort built to protect the bay from pirates. What makes this unique island so special is just how freely you can explore the tunnels and ruins of the red brick installation. It feels like a whole other world in this place, and the jungle, moss, and ruins served as the inspiration for the Studio Ghibli film Laputa Castle in the Sky. It is also possible to camp on this island, but it can be comfortably explored in a single day. Tomogoshima has been one of my favorite hidden locations to visit in Japan, and one of my top recommendations for something a little bit different. But if a mysterious lost island isn't your thing, then day 10 is a great time to visit Koyasan Temple in the mountains, or Nachi Falls, both of which can be found here in Wakayama. After leaving Wakayama, we begin to move towards the Chugaku or central region of Japan and Hiroshima, but not before making some side trips, and you can take 2 different paths here. This would also be a good time to stop at Himeji, since we're going to go right past it, before stopping in Onomichi, a small town but the gateway to the inland sea of Japan, which shelters over 3,000 small islands connected by bridges and ferries. From here, you can either take a ferry to visit Okunoshima, Japan's rabbit island, where you can enjoy the seaside and feed thousands of wild bunnies before continuing to Hiroshima, or have a luggage service send your bags ahead and rent a bicycle for 1,000 yen a day and cross what many consider to be the greatest cycling course in the world, the Island Ocean Road or Shiminami Kaido. I would absolutely recommend this course if you're up for it, and it can be completed in one day if you start early enough, or set aside an additional day and take your time while staying on the islands. The inland sea seems almost tropical, with 70 kilometers or 44 miles of coastline to experience. Some of the best sunsets in Japan can be viewed here, especially over Japan's longest bridge, the Kurashima Kaikyo, which in itself is 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles long, which actually makes it longer than Mount Fuji is tall. It is possible to visit both the Rabbit Island and complete the Shimanami Kaido in a single day, but really only for an experienced cyclist. The beauty of renting a bike along the inland sea is that you can drop them off early at various points and take ferries back or along to Hiroshima, so you will not need to return to Onomichi after reaching Ehime, provided that your luggage was indeed sent forward. Arriving in Hiroshima either by ferry or train, this will be the last major city before we return to Tokyo. Hiroshima is a relaxed city with trams running through the streets, and you could be forgiven for forgetting that this was the location of an atomic attack with just how beautiful its streets have become. The only reminder being the ruins of the Genbaku or Atomic Dome, a building which ruins still stood after the atomic attack, and now serves as a reminder in the Peace Park. It is hard to describe the feelings experienced visiting the Hiroshima Peace Memorial, but it is really something you should try to experience at least once in your lifetime. A short ferry ride from the city, you'll be able to visit Itsukushima Shrine on Miyajima Island, the location of the famous Red Torii Floating Gate, the third and last Nihon Sankai Great View of Japan. In recent years, this site has been undergoing renovations, which are set to be completed in 2022, but the island itself is both peaceful and historic, a great quiet spot to reflect on your trip, and also to feed some more deer, which roam freely. Which brings us to your last 2 days in Japan. Returning to Tokyo by bullet train will take several hours, but feel free to get off at any city you might have missed or feel like you would like to explore more. This is the buffer time to cross anything off from your list, explore, or get your final shopping in before returning home. And this is when I really like to do those small items that were just not as important as the main attractions, like check out some capsule hotels, game arcades, little hole-in-the-wall izakaya bars, or just go around and take photos of the city streets. Tokyo is all about what you want to do and finding your space to enjoy it. But consider taking this time to try something outside your comfort zone. If you chose Akihabara over Harajuku, why not try the later now, if just for the experience? Go to that cat or maid cafe if that's what you really wanted to do, even if it's just a good story to tell your friends back home. Just enjoy yourself, because that's what travel is all about. I really packed a lot of things into this itinerary, because I want to inspire you to have the best time you can, but not to worry if it's too tight a schedule. You can just pick up the things that you liked the most and drop those that you didn't. I like to do as much as possible when traveling somewhere new, but that's not for everyone. With that said, let's take a quick look at what all this would cost. The JR Rail Pass at time of recording costs 47,250 yen, or around $370 US. This might sound high at first, but without this pass, the same trains would cost over 100,000 yen. So it's actually going to save you hundreds of dollars when used correctly. Accommodation prices will vary of course depending how you travel, but a reasonably comfortable hotel in Japan can be found for between 3,000 and 5,000 yen for a night for one person, so 56,000 yen or around $440 is reasonable. It is possible of course to save more here, and it's not unheard of to find a cheaper hostel or capsule hotel for around 2,500 yen. So you could save a bit more money here as well if you really wanted to. For food and activities, you're going to be looking at around 15,000 yen a day to fully experience everything, or around $1,200 US. This is where the most flexibility will come from. Sure, it is possible to eat for around 500 to 1,000 yen a day, eating out of konbinis, and then spend only 2,000 or 3,000 yen on activities, which would save yourself over 60% of this cost, but you probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, and it is a holiday after all. When all is said is done, it is your money though, so spend it how you think best, but for me, I'd budget this trip at around 250,000 yen, or $1,980 US excluding flights. I just love exploring Japan, and I had a lot of fun looking back at the places I've visited over the years. There is just so much that you need to see with your own eyes here, and so much more I have yet to see. Feel free to leave any travel questions, tips, or comments about my suggestions below, and I'll respond to each of them in time. And if you really want to see a great hidden location in Japan, then you need to check out this video where I visit Guju Hachiman in the mountains of Gifu.